Hey there, everybody. It's getting close to noon this morning, and I'll tell you something. It's raining pretty hard down here. I don't know if you can hear that thunder rolling out there in the background, but we've got some pretty bad storms going on today. There's thunderstorms and tornado watches out. Around here in southwest Missouri, if you don't like the weather, just wait for 20 minutes. But enough about weather. This is a good day to stay indoors and really try to get some things done. So I thought this would be a good time for the next episode here. And today's episode is about health, wellness, and ending childhood obesity in America. Are you ready for a radical idea? Well, it's time for a political revolution. My name's Jack Truman, and I'm running for U.S. Congress. And one issue that's very important to me personally is people's health, their wellness, and our children's health and wellness. And I've got some notes here I'm going to refer to so I can have as a reference to talk to you here about. The times really need to change for our children and for the world. It's really time for a political revolution. Today's culture is really going to hell in a handbasket. I've really noticed how our current culture has steadily been deteriorating over these last 30 years or so. And I'll be honest, it's not getting any better. There's been an epidemic that's been building all over the world over these last 30 years, ever since I became an adult back in the early 80s. And what it all comes down to is our children's health. It's as simple as that. These last 3 decades, childhood obesity has been skyrocketing at a real rapid rate. And childhood obesity has been building and building and building, and nothing is being done about it. Money's being thrown out to the wind for all different types of things. Research studies, big corporations, organizations, government, and nothing is being done to help change and reverse the problem. Studies and studies can be done, but if you're not helping the kids, you're not getting anything done and making changes. And you know what the problem is? It's today's culture. It's today's technology. And I'll be honest, this has really been going on for a long time. Everything seems to have started with our children with obesity and health right around the millennium, right around 2000. That's around the time when cell phones, computers, technology, and reality shows really started to take off. And especially since then, over these last 20 years or so, this current generation, they've never known anything else. They didn't grow up in my generation where you read books, where you wrote by hand. It's all been this technology culture, this reality TV culture. This new generation of children and young adults, they've never known anything else. And I'll tell you, a lot of people have wondered how things changed. Well, I'm going to be reading a little bit here as a reference too. Over these last 30 years, schools have really limited or eliminated public activity in the schools. There's very limited play for children by placing locks, having strict rules, or having money play a factor with what's considered to be, quote, free playing. Having corporations, business, and special interest groups with clear agendas whose products or services are proven to be contributing factors to the rising rates of childhood obesity. What we've been doing is lining government with big money. So they have these special interest groups in their pocket. And they don't use facilities and activity centers for children to do free playing. And this is just a start to many of the problems that are going on. We didn't have this problem when I was growing up in the 1970s and the 1980s. Back then it was a different time. It was a different culture. To be honest, put it down in a nutshell, it was a simpler time. I had access to a regular gym in school. Boy, you hear that thunder? It's really coming down. The lightning and thunder is crackling, I'll tell you. But getting back to this, when I was a kid, I had regular time and access to gym in schools, in gym classes. School sports teams, they had games that actually ran through the entire school year. There were physical activities in school all the time. When you had things that like different types of badges with different colors were given out for physical activities and physical fitness programs. Places like tennis courts, they didn't have padlocks on them. Schools that back then did not have. Oh my Lord, you hear that pop? Lord. Schools back then, they didn't have vending machines. You were able to go home for lunch and eat something healthy because lunch was longer than 20 minutes. In grade school, you were able to walk freely to school at 8, 9, 10 years old from home without the need of any type of protection. There was more free, creative playing going on rather than, quote, paid, organized sports for the kids. It was just a different time. And I'll tell you, it's something how times have changed, and not for the better. Obesity is just as much about what you eat as well as how you exercise. It's what you put in your body along with what you're doing with your body. The fight against childhood obesity, you know when it needs to start? It needs to start when the child's a baby and an infant. It needs to start by the time they're 2 years old, if not earlier. There was a new policy that was recently implemented by the Child Health and Development Institute, and they said that the best way to fight things like this is to require action in a child's earliest year, from birth to age 2. I hope you can hear what I'm saying here over all this lightning and thunder. What we need to do, instead of spending and throwing money into obesity camps and other things, let's take a look and enforce some legislation that can actually make some changes. Let's put some dietary restrictions, and put some minimum physical activity requirements on child care centers, on preschools, on elementary schools. Let's help child care centers implement some federal nutrition guidelines. Let's provide infants and toddlers with minimum times to be physically active every day. Let's implement enforcing of blocking, quote, screening time to young children. What we should do is never permit a baby or a toddler to passively watch a TV, a computer, or a cell phone, or another screen that older children in the same room are watching. Let's require physical activity with school children, young school children. Let's educate soon-to-be parents on how to feed their children properly, beginning at pregnancy. Bring back something like home economics so children have a basic understanding of food. You don't have home ec in school anymore. I remember that was a big part of school when I was growing up. These are some changes that we can start with to reverse the epidemic of childhood obesity in America. It's time for some radical changes. We need to go back to some basic things that have worked in the good old days. Only by going back can we begin to solve the problem that has moved forward. Let's start with some radical changes. It's time for some radical changes. It's time for a political revolution. It's time to shake things up for health, wellness, and for our children, for childhood obesity for the future. My name's Jack Truman, and I'm running for U.S. Congress.